Welcome in everybody to this week's YouTube channel visual newsletter. This is Thursday, February the 11th, 2016. My name is Charlie Castro. I'll be your host today. Thanks so much for being here. We've got a lot of stuff over with you today. We're going to be covering this week's available inventory. If you have a piece of paper and a pencil handy, I would get it out. What you're going to see is you're going to see some lists, summaries of properties that are available. And with each summary, there'll be a number associated with that particular list, and that will tell us, if you contact us, which list you're referring to and what you'd like to get a look at this week. So have a piece of paper and a pencil handy to jot down some numbers here in a few minutes. We'll get into some different properties that are available that are new this week. I'm going to be doing something a little bit unusual today. I'm going to be focusing a little bit on protocol. You know, most folks don't recognize that in buying off many lists, you can find success or failure by simply understanding or not understanding what the buyer's protocol or what the seller's protocol is. And you know, every seller has a certain set of rules to follow. Some are real simple. I'll be talking about that this afternoon. And some aren't. Some you've got to follow a specific protocol if you're going to be successful. One of the things we learned over the summer last year was we saw a lot of Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac tapes float around, and we heard a lot of people's frustration about buying off of those particular lists. And the frustration was basically, you know, hey, I offer on these lists and I don't ever hear anything back, or my bids aren't accepted, or just general frustration not having a high level of success in buying off those lists. And what we learned was from talking to the people at Freddie Mac was simply this. Most of the people that were offering on the list didn't follow the protocol. And most of the people that were marketing the list didn't even understand the protocol. So how were they able to articulate it? Well, they weren't. And so therefore, you saw a lot of frustration. Well, that same principle applies even with private tapes. If you've got a private seller, we're going to focus on one in particular today, that has a certain protocol to follow and you don't know it, then you're not going to have a high level of success. Conversely, if you understand what the parameters are, you'll have a much greater experience in making offers and winning bids. So I'm going to be focusing on inventory. Our February, I should have changed that. My apologies, everybody. The February list for these particular lists of REOs is 1,927. It went up about 100 and some properties from January to February. We're going to focus on that today. Current market conditions, and I've left this slide up here for a few weeks, so if you've heard this, you're going to hear it again, and I'm going to point it out again because it's really important. We continue to get offers on large portfolios, only to have those offers in many cases fail, because what the seller or the buyer wants to offer and what the seller thinks the properties are worth are just two different things, and I'm going to just talk about one today. Many of you know that we had a large tape in Arizona. I wasn't even allowed to give out a summary on that tape. It was a large tape. It was over 300 properties in Phoenix area. We've been marketing it. We had a number of offers in the last 2 weeks, and we're not under contract on that yet. So if you know somebody looking for a large, over than $50 million tape of stabilized cash flowing assets, we have a very nice one in Phoenix, Arizona. We are not under contract yet. We are close. But the point I wanted to make was, again, in this case, when the buyer came in and made the initial offer, he came in at about 80% of value. Now, 80% of value in most markets will get it done. If you're in Alabama or you're in Missouri or you're in Illinois, when you're any of the Rust Belt states, 80% is going to almost always get it done. In Arizona, California, Nevada, you're not going to get stabilized portfolios right now at 70, 80%. So I point that out because if you're going to look to offer off anything that we have in terms of bulk cash flowing properties, you have to know the market's changed. And I've been saying this now for about 6 or 8 weeks. We saw this change start really over the summer of 2015. And it's gotten only, I don't want to say worse, but the delta between what a buyer thinks his portfolio is worth and what a seller thinks it's worth are becoming two different things. And so you have to know if you're buying in that space, and I know there's people out there that are going around saying things like, hey, I'll buy whatever you've got that's cash flowing in those diamond states. I'll pay 70% of fair market. I don't know where you're going to get those anymore. I just really don't. I haven't seen it. We work with a couple different funds. They're certainly not seeing it. So you just manage your buyer's expectations if they're looking to buy that kind of stock. Now, you can still get great discounts. I don't want anybody to think that we're saying that you can't still get great discounts. You can, but that type of inventory comes in the form of REOs. That's what we're going to be talking about today. There's lots of inventory there. We say to people there, hey, listen, if you just tell us what your buying criteria is, we'll customize a list for you. If you're buying in a small area like in Akron, Ohio, we have a solid buyer there now that's been buying up a lot of stuff down there in Akron. He tells us what he's looking for. He says, this is the zips I like, these are the zips I don't like. And so we're able to customize lists for him that just fits what his buying criteria. So, once upon a time, Phil and I used to blast this thing out everywhere. And we used to say, hey, just here's our list, take a look at them. We stopped doing that for a lot of reasons that we don't need to talk about any longer, but we stopped doing that. Instead, we're saying, hey, look, tell us what your criteria is. Tell us where you're buying. Tell us what kind of stock do you like to look at, vacant, tenant occupied, etc. And then we'll find that inventory for you if it's available. So I get asked a lot, who is the source of some of our inventory? We get our inventory from a number of different sources. Private sellers, certainly. Individuals, you'll see individual properties that we advertise out there. Those are always from just individual sellers. Excuse me. They're looking to sell. We do get some bank product. I have a couple of bank tapes now. We featured those last week. We talked about some bank stock that comes in the form of NPNs and even some REOs. So we do have some bank contacts. We're only direct to 2 banks that Phil and I get tapes from. Sometimes they're through banks reps. Just it comes from a variety of different sources. We do work with hedge funds. The Arizona tape that I mentioned came to us from a hedge fund who is contracted with that seller to market that list of properties. We do work with some REITs. Those are just a little bit smaller REITs that we do work with. Work with a lot of wholesalers. We probably get more inventory from wholesalers than from anybody else. And then we also work with some property management companies. There's a number of property management companies around the country that when they get inventory from investors, we got some this week. I should point out because it's not on here, but if you're looking for Chicago multifamily type properties, we got a couple. No, not a couple. We got 8 different LLCs looking to sell, managed by this one property management company that we now have in-house to market. So property management companies are also another source of where we get our inventory. Okay, now this is the tape of REOs I was referencing. Now I want to go through this in some detail today. If you've been looking at buying off of this list, I want to give you some good detail as to how you do it and how you can be successful with this. I'm going to talk about the list itself, and I'm going to talk about the protocol. So first, the list. These are all over the country. They're up and down. They're literally in almost every state. What we ask you to do is tell us what areas you're looking in so we don't send you a list of 1,900 properties. So step number 1 on this is, tell us where you're looking to buy, and we'll send you that list. This list can be cherry-picked. You need to know these properties are acquired through a number of different ways. There's different sellers in these properties. It's one company, but there's different investors on each one. I'll go into the protocol here in a second, but the asking prices are not firm. It's a great list to buy off of. You need to do your own due diligence, including checking for liens. So there's about 2,000 of these this month. They're all over the country. If you tell us what area you're in, we can send you the list. Now, the protocol. Now, this is very important because if you don't follow the protocol, now we've seen a lot of this. If you don't follow the protocol, you won't be successful. So when you're offering on this list, it's critical that you follow these steps sort of in order, step by step. The first thing is request a list of properties in your buying area. We can't send out the entire list. They don't let us do that. So if you for those that have called in and said, hey, send me the entire list, we can't do that. And by the way, whoever calls into our office and says we want the whole tape, we have buyers all across the country. Nobody has buyers in all 50 states. I say that respectfully, but we just know that when someone says we want the whole tape, we know you don't have a buyer in that buys in all 50 states. Which if you do, I apologize. I'd like to talk to those people, but we've never seen that. We only want to send a list to you that are in your markets. That doesn't mean you don't have 10 different markets. That's okay. Just don't say you want the whole list. By the way, typically when somebody says they want the whole list, that tells they want to advertise it. They want to take it, they want to advertise it themselves, and we don't want to do that anymore. Request from us the access code. So you're going to get a copy. Let's say you're in Iowa and you get 50 properties in Iowa. You go through the list. You look at the ones you think might fit for you, the ones that you're in the zips that you like or what have you. Maybe they're in the price points you like. Maybe you know the school districts or the crime areas. You request from us the lockbox code. So the second thing is ask for the access codes. We can get you the access codes within 24 hours, excluding weekends. You have to do your own due diligence. You got to view the property, check for tax liens, water liens, and factor that into your offer. So if there's an asking price of $30,000 on a house, it's got a $5,000 tax lien, you factor that in. You got to pay the tax lien when you close, so you got to factor that into your offer, and the seller certainly understands that as well. The asking price in the spreadsheet is not firm. Now, I don't want to get pigeonholed here because people will say, "Well, Charlie, you said 50%." This is market dependent. And it's property dependent. In other words, if you're offering in Florida, for example, which is a very hot market right now, and you're offering on a property that you've been inside and you know that it's fairly livable, it needs some work, but it's not trash, don't commit an offer 40% of the asking price, because this is what happens when you do that. If you come in at a ridiculously low offer up front, they will counter back hard. What does that mean? It means if you come, let's say a house is for sale for 40 grand and you come in at 15, they're going to counter at 35. Or if you'd have come in at 20, you might have gotten that property for 25. There'd have been a more reasonable counter offer back and forth if you don't start off with some ridiculous number. So typically what I do, if I see an offer on something like that where somebody comes in at 40, I'll say, be careful. If you're offering at 40%, you better be able to tell the seller why. Do you have pictures of it? Can you document what's wrong with it? Because understand something, when they buy these properties, the first thing that they do is they put lockbox codes and they have an inspection. So they have a pretty good idea of the condition of the property. So don't try and, for lack of a better term, don't try and BS them by telling them that the property is only worth 10 when it's really worth 20. So you want to be sensitive to that. But you can get these for a lot less than the asking prices for sure. There's some great deals in that list. The offers have to be submitted to me. They do not require an LOI or POF. Now, why don't they? Because this is going to be quick. You're going to go out and look at the property. You're going to make your offer. We're going to negotiate a price. We're going to go to contract. We're going to work to close. So there's no need for an LOI and POF. If you can't close on a property, then why offer on it, right? If you're going to do a double close, be sensitive to that. They don't like assignable contracts, so you need to be sensitive to that. There's no such thing as a 30-day close. So if you're going to try to buy some of these REOs, you're going to say we want a 30-day close period. They're never going to allow for that, and here's the reason why. They sell these in 3 different ways. They sell them to investors, they sell them on land contracts, and they sell them on the MLS. If somebody's going to pay full retail, they're going to sell them at full retail on the MLS. You can buy them a lot cheaper through us, obviously. If they get an LOP buyer or a land contract buyer, they're going to contract that with a land contract buyer. So there's no way they're going to take a property or properties off the market for 30 days on a $20,000 or $30,000 property. The way they see that is, if you need 30 days to close, you don't have the cash to close, we don't want to go under contract with you, don't waste our time. So the typical close in these really is 1 to 2 weeks from execution of the contract. Title can be conveyed by either warranty deed or quitclaim deed. So if you want a full warranty deed, not a problem. If you want to close through quitclaim deed, that's okay too. We do get paid by the seller. A note, this is very important. Matt, most of you know Matt, who works with me in my office here. Matt is the one that creates these tapes. Well, our database is now sophisticated enough to where if you tell Matt you want these 10 zip codes in Cleveland, he'll send you those 10 zip codes in Cleveland. So, but a note from him, when requesting lists, this list or any other, please send specific states, counties, cities, or zip codes, as well as any other buying criteria when making a request. Please do not make requests that could be considered subjective or too large in scope. An example of that would be, send me North Chicago, or send me the Atlanta suburbs, or only send me good areas with good school districts or low crime areas. We have no way of knowing that stuff, and neither do we have the time to go into a Zillow or a Trulia, for example, and scope out the crime rates in a certain community. There just isn't enough time in our day to do that sort of stuff. So you have to tell us specifically, I want these zips, or I don't want these zips, or I want this county, or I want that county. You've got to be very specific with regards to what you want. If you can't just send over an offer and say, hey, or an email and say, Charlie, we want all your REO property in good areas of Chicago. That takes us nowhere. Okay, now the following 2 lists have this buying criteria. So I'm going to go through this buying criteria, or the protocol rather, on these following 2 lists. So the next 2 lists you're going to see, this is the protocol to follow. So this is what's got to, now these are bank tapes, so that's why you have a little bit different protocol here. So first thing, you have to sign an NCND. So if you want to get these tapes, you have to sign an NCND. You have to provide a letter of intent and proof of funds. That has to be sent in with the offer. There's fees on these, which are split 50-50 with the bank's rep. So if it's 6% you get from your buyer, for example, we split 3% each way. So 3% our side, 3% their side. The pricing is flexible, but I learned today via a couple of offers, while there's flexibility, some of these that you're about to see are in places like New York and New Jersey and Florida. Don't come in at 70% of unpaid balance. They're flexible, but they're not giving them away. Offers on these notes should be made using the principal balance. So use the principal balance is where you would make your offer from, and they will consider and look at any and all offers. Now, this is what these look like. One's a 16. Now, I got updated one just about an hour ago, so these are actually a little bit bigger now than what you're looking at here. I think this one actually is 26 now, I think. These are non-performing notes. These are REOs. Excuse me. These are REOs primarily on the East Coast, valued at 10 million. They're asking 5, so they're about 50% of the value price in these REOs. These are higher priced properties, as you can see from the price, the for sale column in the far right there. These are not $20,000-$30,000 REOs. These are higher end. They're also, if you notice, there's some commercial, there's some mixed use, there's some multifamily, there's some single family. So it's sort of a mixed bag of nuts, but it's got some really good quality. That is tape number C. Tape number F is 36 nationwide REOs as well, primarily East Coast, New York, New Hampshire, New Jersey. Again, if you notice here, sales prices on those are a little bit higher. These are listed on the MLS, but you can get them quite a bit less by dealing directly with the bank rep. I was told today that these can probably be purchased for about 70%, 75% of asking price. So some really good discount on those REOs. Now in Detroit, I'm just going to say Michigan in general right now. If you just say Detroit, just contact us about Detroit. I just got a new list about 2 hours ago of about 250 properties in Detroit, priced from $1,500 to, I want to say, $2,000 a door. Now those are flat out REOs. Obviously, these are not turnkey rehab properties. These are REOs, but there's some really good buys in that tape. The guy's trying to get rid of them for tax reasons, so he's going to blow them out. He wants to blow all 250 of them out before, obviously, the beginning of April. So these in Detroit, however, these are stabilized, cash flowing. There's 50 of them. These are all newly rehabbed. They've all been contracted in the last 3 months, or it's not contracted, leased in the last 3 months. So these are like new rehabs. The company that owns these properties, what they did was they have their own construction company and their own property management company. So they buy properties in Detroit, they rehab them, then they sell them. And then they manage them back too. So they're like a full turnkey operation. There's no list on this. We forgot to put a number on this tape, obviously. So this is just call it the Detroit 50. But yeah, we can get you the list out. Now, we've had these for a few weeks now, and there was a big mistake on these. A few weeks ago, it was probably a month ago I got these now. We featured these originally, and we had the completely wrong asking price. And this was our fault. We were dealing with the rep for the company that owns these, and she gave us the wrong pricing on it. They were priced at, I think, about $20,000 a door. Some of these are as little as $5,000 a door. I mean, now there's tax liens, so you got to be sensitive to tax liens. But needless to say, these are well below market value in Jacksonville, and you can cherry pick these. This is tape number 112. We have a couple of different REO lists in Jacksonville right now. As a matter of fact, this is just one of them. But if you say you're looking for the Jacksonville tape number 112, we'll know what you're looking for. We can send you those lists. Now, these were sold, we thought, until a couple of days ago. These have been under contract since early December, and I talked about it in my podcast last week. I talked about some companies out there that like to put stuff under contract and then try to flip them. If they can't flip them, they don't buy them, and then everybody sort of gets left at the altar at the end of the day. That's what happened to this. This was under contract. It was set to close. The buyer couldn't flip it, so he didn't buy it. So here it's back with us again. So these are non-performing notes, New York and New Jersey. There's one REO in there. It's tape number 13. I have a pretty good idea at least on what they'll accept in terms of price. So if you contact us for that, we can give you a copy of that list, and we can get that over to you. So that this week is our YouTube channel visual newsletter. I want to thank you for being on with us. We've got a whole bunch of new inventory that came in the last day and well, even up to today. I was getting stuff in new up to 2 hours ago. So there was a lot of stuff that missed the boat. So if you want to contact us, we can certainly send you over what some of the new inventory we have is. I put Matt's information up here. Matt will be the one that would be able to customize a tape for you. So if you just contact us and say, hey, listen, I'm looking for this in that market, we'll be more than happy to get you out that particular list of inventory. Some of the things that we got in new, I'm just going to mention here. I always say I'm going to keep these at 20 minutes. I'm only at about 19 minutes right now, so I'll just take about 30 seconds here. Some of the new inventory that we got in just in the last 2 days we didn't have time to get onto our YouTube channel this week. I got 8 different LLCs in Chicago. Most of those are multifamily, some single family. They're well below market value. They are motivated to sell it for a variety of reasons we can talk about. I received a couple new lists of NPNs today and I'm expecting another NPN tape in on Monday. I've got some Michigan non-performing notes in that were new. About 17 of them, way below market value on those. Let's see what else. Oh, and I got some new Birmingham product. For those of you that were interested in the Birmingham house, if you recall, about 3 weeks ago, we had a house in Birmingham, a Section 8 tenant at $700 a month. that was selling for, I believe, $32,000 or $31,000. It was like an 18 cap. I've got about 5 of those coming in. Section 8s in Birmingham, rented between $675 and $725 that are going to be selling for around $32,000, $33,000. So some big cap rates there. So we'll be featuring those next week. In the meantime, you can contact us. My name is Charlie Castro. I want to thanks for listening to us today, and we look forward to talking to you all real soon.